What I'm about to tell you will change everything you thought you knew about Stranger Things. In 1984, a 7-year-old girl was found wandering a bus station in Pennsylvania. Alone, terrified, her head was shaved. On her wrist, a tattoo, the number 14. When police asked her name, she couldn't remember. When they asked where she came from, she described a place that shouldn't exist. An underground facility, other children, experiments. They didn't believe her. The same year, in Montauk, New York, a classified military base shut down overnight. No warning, no explanation, files destroyed. The locals reported something else. Children screaming in their sleep. All of them. The same nightmare. A dark world, a creature with no face, and a girl who could move things with her mind. 3 years later, 2 brothers from North Carolina pitched a TV show to Netflix. The original title? Montauk. They changed it. The lawyers made them. But they kept everything else. The experiments, the children, the numbers, the monster. Tonight, you'll discover why. Because Stranger Things isn't fiction. It's a confession. Hawkins National Laboratory, the epicenter of everything in Stranger Things. A secret government facility conducting experiments on children. Sensory deprivation tanks, electroshock therapy, psychological manipulation. Dr. Martin Brenner, played chillingly by Matthew Modine, runs the operation. Cold, calculating, convinced that the end justifies the means. But here's what they don't tell you. Dr. Brenner isn't fictional. Well, not entirely. From 1953 to 1973, the Central Intelligence Agency ran a program called MK Ultra. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is declassified fact. The CIA itself admitted it. MK Ultra involved 80 institutions across the United States and Canada. Universities, hospitals, prisons, mental institutions. The goal? Mind control. To create the perfect spy, the perfect soldier, the perfect weapon. They used LSD, sensory deprivation, electroshock, hypnosis, sexual abuse, psychological torture. And they did it to unwilling subjects. Students who thought they were participating in research studies. Prison inmates who had no choice. Psychiatric patients who couldn't consent. And children. In 1977, the US Senate held hearings on MK Ultra. The director of the CIA, Admiral Stansfield Turner, testified. He admitted that the program had been abhorrent and that most records had been deliberately destroyed in 1973. Destroyed. 2 years before they were supposed to be declassified. Why? What were they hiding? But MK Ultra was public, exposed. The government apologized, paid some settlements, and everyone moved on. Except, the experiments never stopped. They just went deeper underground. Enter Project Stargate. From 1978 to 1995, the US Department of Defense spent $20 million researching psychic phenomena. Remote viewing, telepathy, precognition. They recruited individuals who claimed to have abilities, trained them, tested them. And according to declassified documents, some of them were successful. Successful enough that the program ran for nearly 2 decades. But where did they find these psychics? The official story says they were volunteers, adults who came forward. But former operatives tell a different story. They say the government had been monitoring gifted individuals for years, tracking families, watching children who displayed unusual abilities, paying parents to keep quiet, taking children who wouldn't be missed. In 1985, a man named Dr. James Keating came forward. He claimed to be a former scientist working on classified psychic research. He said they weren't just studying adults. They were studying children, starting as young as 5 years old. He said they believed psychic abilities were strongest in the young minds before they were corrupted by rational thinking. He said they kept these children in isolated facilities, gave them numbers instead of names. He said the program was called Project Indigo. 3 weeks after going public, Dr. Keating disappeared. His files were never found. His family said he never existed. But the audio recording of his interview still exists, hidden on forgotten conspiracy websites. Waiting. 11. Jane Ives, subject 11. A girl with a shaved head, a number tattooed on her wrist, raised in a laboratory by a man she called Papa. She can move objects with her mind, close dimensions, kill with a thought. She has no childhood, no memories before the lab, no identity beyond the experiments. This is where Stranger Things gets uncomfortable. Because this part feels too real. In the 1950s and 60s, thousands of children disappeared from orphanages and foster systems across America. The official numbers say they were adopted, moved to different facilities, ran away. But many of them were never seen again. No records, no death certificates, no trail. Just gone. In 2003, a woman named Sarah Caldwell came forward with a story. She said that in 1979, when she was 7 years old, she was taken from a foster home in upstate New York. She said she was brought to an underground facility. She said there were other children there, maybe 20, maybe more. She said they shaved her head, gave her a uniform with a number on it. She was subject 14. She said they put her in a room with a table. On the table was a pencil. They told her to move it, with her mind. She couldn't, of course. She was 7. She was terrified. So they increased the motivation. Electric shocks, isolation, food deprivation, psychological torture. Anything to trigger what they called latent abilities. Sarah said she was there for 3 months. She never moved the pencil. One day, she was told she was unsuitable for the program. They put her in a van, drove her for hours, and dropped her at a bus station in Pennsylvania. She had a new name, new documents, a new identity. When she tried to tell people about what happened, nobody believed her. There were no records of her ever being in that facility. According to the government, Sarah Caldwell didn't exist until she was 7 years old. She's not the only one. In the last 20 years, dozens of people have come forward with similar stories. Different facilities, different years, different numbers, but the same experiments, the same torture, the same impossible goal: creating psychics. Most were dismissed as mentally ill, attention seekers, false memories. But in 2019, a Freedom of Information Act request uncovered something interesting. Buried in CIA documents was a reference to pediatric enhancement programs running from 1975 to 1984. The exact time period of Stranger Things. The details were redacted. The program name was redacted. The locations were redacted. But the budget line was clear. $47 million. For what? The CIA won't say. And then there's Terry Ives. In Stranger Things, Terry is Eleven's biological mother. She participated in MKUltra experiments while pregnant. Her daughter was stolen from her at birth, When Terry tried to get Jane back, she was discredited, declared insane, lobotomized into a vegetative state. This character, she's based on someone. In 1977, a woman named Valerie Wolf testified before the Presidential Committee on Human Radiation Experiments. She brought two women with her, Claudia Mullen and Christine DeNicola. Both women claimed they were used in government mind control experiments as children. They described sensory deprivation tanks, electroshock, drug injections, sexual abuse. They described trying to tell adults. Nobody believed them. They described the same doctor overseeing everything, a man they called the Doctor, a man who told them they would never be believed because they were children, a man who told them they belong to the government now. Their testimony is public record. You can read it yourself. And when you do, you'll notice something. They could be describing Hawkins' laboratory, scene by scene, detail by detail, almost like someone used their testimony as a script. The Upside Down. A parallel dimension, a dark mirror of our world, decaying, toxic, filled with creatures that hunt in the darkness. It's accessed through a gate, a tear in reality created by 11 psychic powers. Once opened, it spreads, infects, corrupts everything it touches. This is the most fantastical element of Stranger Things. Surely this is pure fiction, right? In 1943, the US Navy allegedly conducted an experiment called the Philadelphia Experiment. The goal was to make the USS Eldridge invisible to radar. According to witnesses, the ship didn't just disappear from radar. It disappeared, completely, vanished. When it reappeared, crew members were fused into the metal structure of the ship. Others were embedded in the deck. Many were insane. The survivors reported seeing another place, a place that felt wrong, empty, cold, a place where the laws of physics didn't work. The Navy denies the Philadelphia experiment ever happened. They say it's a hoax, an urban legend, misunderstood science. But the reports never stopped. And in 1983, declassified documents showed the Navy had indeed been experimenting with electromagnetic fields and radar invisibility in that exact time period. Just not in the way people thought. Fast forward to the 1980s. Camp Hero, Montauk, New York. An abandoned Air Force station on the eastern tip of Long Island. According to local legend, it wasn't abandoned at all. The Montauk Project. First described by Preston Nichols in his 1992 book, The Montauk Project: Experiments in Time. Nichols claimed to be a survivor. He said that beneath Camp Hero was a massive underground facility. He said they were continuing the work from the Philadelphia experiment. But they weren't trying to make ships invisible. They were trying to open doorways. Using powerful electromagnetic fields and psychic children, they allegedly created rifts in space-time. Doorways to other places, other times, other dimensions. Nichols described seeing these portals. He said they led to a place that looked like Earth. But it was wrong. The sky was dark. The air was thick. Everything was decaying. He called it the void. Sound familiar? But here's where it gets stranger. In the years following Nichols' book, other people came forward. Stuart Swerdlow, Al Bielek, Duncan Cameron, all claiming to be survivors of the Montauk Project, all describing the same experiments, the same facility, the same portal, and all describing children being used as psychic amplifiers. children with numbers tattooed on their arms. The government denies the Montauk Project exists. Camp Hero is now a state park, open to the public. You can visit it yourself, but the underground bunkers are sealed. Off limits. Structurally unsafe, they say. And local residents report strange things. Lights in the sky, electromagnetic interference, time anomalies, people entering the park and losing hours of time with no memory, children having nightmares about the dark place underground. In 2015, a team of urban explorers broke into one of the sealed bunkers at Camp Hero. They documented everything, posted it online. The videos show vast underground corridors, rusted equipment, rooms with hospital beds bolted to the floor, a large circular room with scorch marks on the walls. And in one room, they found something that made them leave immediately. Children's drawings, dozens of them, pinned to a wall, all showing the same thing. A dark world, a monster with no face, and a girl with a shaved head. The videos were taken down within 48 hours. The explorers were arrested for trespassing. But copies of the footage still exist, hidden in the corners of the internet, if you know where to look. The Demogorgon, a creature from the upside down, faceless, predatory, hunting by sound and smell. It's the monster under a bed, the creature in the closet, pure nightmare fuel. But what if it wasn't created by a special effects team? What if it was described by survivors? In the late 1970s and early 1980s, there was a wave of strange animal mutilations across the northeastern United States, particularly concentrated around Long Island, New York. Deer, dogs, livestock, all found torn apart with surgical precision. No tracks, no blood trails, no predators identified. The wounds were unusual. Tissue removed with almost mechanical precision. Organs missing. Bodies drained of blood. Local authorities blamed coyotes, bears, natural predators. But farmers and hunters disagreed. They said this wasn't natural predation. The wounds were too clean, too deliberate. And there were sightings. Multiple witnesses reported seeing a tall, pale figure in the woods near Camp Hero. 6 to 7 feet tall, elongated limbs, moving on all fours but standing upright. No facial features visible, just smooth skin. It moved fast, unnaturally fast. And it made a sound, a clicking, growling sound, exactly like the Demogorgon in Stranger Things. In 1982, a hunter named Robert Mallory shot at one of these creatures. He swears he hit it, center mass, with a rifle. He said it screamed, a sound he'd never heard before. Then it fled into the woods. He followed the blood trail. It led to a chain-link fence surrounding Camp Hero. The blood stopped at the fence. On the other side, there was nothing. Robert reported it to the police. They investigated, found nothing. But 2 days later, Robert's hunting cabin burned down. Electrical fire, they said. Robert said he'd just had the wiring inspected. It was fine. He stopped talking about what he saw after that. But the sightings continued. 1983, 1984. Always near Camp Hero. Always the same description. Then, in 1985, they stopped. Completely. No more sightings, no more mutilations, nothing. Camp Hero was officially decommissioned in 1984. Coincidence? In Stranger Things, the Demogorgon is eventually killed. But more creatures come through. The Mind Flayer, the Demodogs, Vecna. Each season, the threat escalates. The upside down spreads. The gates multiply. What if that's not fiction? What if that's a warning? In 2008, a classified document was leaked online. It was allegedly from the Department of Energy. The document discussed extra-dimensional containment protocols. It referenced multiple sites across the United States where breaches had occurred. It mentioned biological entities of unknown origin. And it included a list of compromised facilities. Camp Hero was on that list. So was a facility in Nevada, one in Alaska, one in Indiana. The document was quickly debunked as a hoax. The government said it was fake, created by conspiracy theorists. But forensic analysis of the document showed it used authentic Department of Energy letterhead. The classification markings were correct. The formatting was correct. If it was a hoax, it was a very professional one. So what came through at Montauk? What did those children summon with their minds? And where is it now? Matt and Ross Duffer, twin brothers from North Carolina, grew up in the 1980s. Huge fans of Stephen King, Steven Spielberg, and John Carpenter. They created Stranger Things as a love letter to that era. That's the official story. But there's another story. A stranger story. Before Stranger Things, the Duffer brothers pitched a show to Netflix called Montauk. Same characters, same plot, same supernatural elements. But it was set in Montauk, New York, at Camp Hero. It was about government experiments on psychic children, about opening portals to other dimensions. It was about the Montauk Project. Netflix loved the pitch. They greenlit it immediately. But then something happened. The lawyers got involved. According to interviews, Netflix's legal team advised changing the name and location. Montauk carried too much baggage, too many real-world associations, too much potential for legal issues. So the Duffer brothers moved the story to fictional Hawkins, Indiana, changed the facility name to Hawkins Lab, and renamed the show Stranger Things. But here's the question nobody asks. How did the Duffer brothers know about the Montauk Project in the first place? In interviews, they say they were inspired by conspiracy theories, urban legends. They did research. But the level of detail in Stranger Things is specific. The sensory deprivation tanks, the numbered children, the Papa figure, the electromagnetic equipment, the underground facility, the portal to another dimension. These aren't generic conspiracy theories. These are specific elements from survivor testimonies, from books that aren't widely known, from documents that aren't easily accessible. In 2017, a Reddit user claimed to have worked as a researcher for the Duffer brothers during the development of Stranger Things. They said the brothers had access to materials that weren't public. They said someone had given them files, documents, testimonies. They said the show was originally meant to be much darker, much more explicit about the real-world connections. But Netflix made them tone it down, make it more entertainment. The Reddit user posted for 3 days, answered questions, provided details. Then they deleted everything and disappeared. But the most disturbing detail? The Duffer brothers themselves have admitted something strange. In a 2016 interview, Matt Duffer said, "We had dreams about this story before we wrote it. Both of us. The same dreams. We'd wake up and compare notes. It was weird. It felt like the story was already out there. We were just transcribing it." Ross Duffer added, "Sometimes when we're writing, it doesn't feel like we're creating. It feels like we're remembering, like we're accessing something that already happened." What does that mean? Were the Duffer Brothers influenced by the Montauk Project? Or were they part of it? Consider this. The Duffer Brothers were born in 1984, the same year the Montauk Project allegedly shut down. They grew up in North Carolina, not far from Fort Bragg, a military base known for classified psychological operations. They both report having vivid dreams and nightmares throughout their childhood. They both describe feeling drawn to 1980s nostalgia in a way that feels more like memory than interest. What if the Duffer Brothers weren't researching the Montauk Project? What if they were in it? What if Stranger Things isn't fiction? What if it's testimony? Hidden in plain sight as entertainment, as nostalgia, as homage. What if they're trying to tell us something and nobody's listening? So what's the truth behind Stranger Things? Is it just a show? A brilliant piece of entertainment that taps into our fears and nostalgia? Or is it something more? MKUltra was real, documented, admitted. Project Stargate was real, funded for 20 years. The Philadelphia experiment has credible witnesses. The Montauk Project has multiple survivors with consistent testimonies. The animal mutilations happened. The sightings happened. The classified documents exist. And Stranger Things captures it all. The experiments, the children, the portals, the creatures. Scene by scene, detail by detail. Almost like someone was there. Almost like someone remembered. The government says it's all fiction. The Duffer Brothers say it's entertainment. The survivors say it's real. In 2023, Camp Hero was partially reopened for renovations. Workers reported strange occurrences, equipment malfunctions, missing tools, unexplained sounds. One worker quit after finding a child's shoe in a sealed corridor. A shoe from the 1980s, still tied, like someone had just taken it off. The renovations were quietly suspended. No explanation given. Camp Hero remains partially closed. The underground sections remain sealed. And the nightmares continue. Maybe Hawkins, Indiana never existed. But Montauk, New York did. And somewhere beneath the ground, in a sealed facility, something might still be waiting. A portal that was never fully closed. A creature that was never fully contained. A truth that was never fully buried. The files are classified. The witnesses are silent. The evidence is hidden. But the story is out there. In a Netflix show watched by millions. Disguised as fiction. Hidden in plain sight. They told us it was entertainment. But what if Stranger Things was never meant to be created? What if it's the only way the truth could ever be told? The truth is out there. You just have to know where to look.